We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. The pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Welcome to European Eracing and the European Eracing League. Tonight it's time for our second round in our Next Gen series here at Music City, or Nashville SuperSpeedway, located in Gladeville, Tennessee, USA, and the track opened in 2001. And it's the longest concrete oval in NASCAR, actually, with audience on the races around 150,000 people. Anyhow, it's a D-shaped oval with 4 curves and 40 degrees banking, as you can see here. My name is Jonas Force, and with me tonight I have Alexander Bengtsson as producer, and we're doing this broadcast in a collaboration from Eracing Studios here in Stockholm with RaceSpot, amazing broadcasting company on iRacing. Yeah, so we will begin our broadcast today with a lap around this track, with no other than Dennis Sharp, I think. Here he is, teammate of Jonas Gunnarsson that we followed last week around this track. You have to go be a little bit open, go down on the bottom, down to about 7,500 RPMs to keep the car on the bottom. Do not push the car too hard into the corner, and then because it will push too much into the entrance of turn number 2 or 4. So down on the bottom and use as much track as you possibly can up to the wall on the outside. And tire management, what might be a crucial factor here. We are looking into a fuel run of about 68 laps, and depending on the cautions, and I don't think that we will have more than maybe 4 or 5 cautions if it's a caution fest tonight, but somewhere around 2 or 3 would be likely, I'd say. Not too many on this long race that we are facing tonight. We're doing 160 laps around this track, and the lap times are around 30 seconds each. We'll start with qualifying at 7 in about 15 minutes, and then we will hand over this broadcast to the guys at Race Spot. Anyhow, we're just right now. Sorry. I got some messages in my ears right now. This is the second race, and to join the European E-Racing League, you have to have a I rating of 2,500 or more and a B license. On the ovals, be sure to follow our social medias at YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. We are named European E-Racing at all these places. Anyhow, we have some highlights from the premiere at Michigan. Let's have a look at that. Yep. To the European E-Racing and the European E-Racing League. Today we are hosting the premiere of the EEL here at Michigan International Speedway. It's a late start from Andreas Selander, which is highly chased by Arlson in behind. No cautions yet, even though, oh, there it is. Shouldn't have said anything. Commentator's curse there. And we're having a caution right now. And it looks like it's a team deal. Behind it's number 52 and 64. Thomas Corona. Right now, Kevin Adam is the only car that...
And we have yellow flag.
Multiple cars involved.
Drifting.
Behind number 9 of Leitner. And it's a really hard hit in front of us. And there is the big one. Ovinen is hit. Number 64, Kapal, is out. And it's a push from Lukomsky at Kapal, causing the big havocs here. And then multiple cars involved. White flag is out. And the race is official. Adam in 4th, starting 5th. Here comes the last straightaway. Dominik Lukomsky, high or low? He's looking high and he's going high. And with him is Kevin Adam, who's looking low for 3 wide here to do something and it's contact in the last corner. It's Lukomsky collecting number 99 of Søren Nasban, but the winner here is Oystein Walsh for Alkintec NHR by SimLab here in the premiere at Michigan. Congratulations to the Alkintec gang and to Walsh himself for taking home the W here in the premiere of the European E-Racing League. Yes, this was our premiere at the European E-Racing League. Oystein Walsh dominating this race more or less with Eric Blix behind him, both from the Alkintec NHR organization. Walsh for the by SimLab division and Blix for Neiman Racing. Kevin Adam does a great job finishing 3rd, Norbert Leitner on 4th, and Gabriel Sturr rounds up our top 5 right now in the standings. 1 race have been done, so with all the bonus points and everything, this is what you're looking at. So Alkintec, the leading organization right now in the team standings. We will soon have a picture of that too. First, let's have a look around our top 20 here. So Marcus Hogman is on 11th place right now, and Andrew Rose for Wannabe. Wannabe has done a great premiere too, from the Wannabe SRT gang, both the black team and the yellow team. So in the team championship, right now we have Alkintec and NHR by Neiman Racing as the leader of this league right now, and then their other part of the team, presented by SimLab. On second place, Wannabe SRT Yellow on third, Wannabe SRT Black on fourth, Force Esports on fifth, Alkalites on sixth, Rising Star Motorsports on seventh, Force Esports Academy on eighth, and Nebula Esports is on a ninth position right now. And as we see, there are some organizations with multiple teams here, and I think that they might be the strongest ones through this season. So it's going to be really interesting to follow the drivers that competed in the premiere here, and they're competing of some prizes. Let's have a look at them. From Cooler Master, some fans and a master box, and the Master Air MA 624 Stealth for the third position, and some mouses, headsets, and mouse pads for the winner, and a headset for the second place, and a gaming mouse for the third place. Also, Eason Studio is contributing with €1,000. Distributed on the top 10 here in this season. So some prizes from Logitech and Cooler Master, but also the prize money then from the broadcasting studio that we're sitting in right now in Stockholm. Anyhow, we're just waiting for the race to start. We have about 8 minutes until then, and this race will be probably a two-stopper if the whole race is going green. There's not so much to analyze actually before the race will start. I do believe that the Alkantech organization and the Wannabe organizations will be the two strongest ones. Even here, Nashville is a track that will benefit the driver more than the team, as we saw in Michigan. Michigan is a pretty much flat out track because it's very wide and 2 miles. This track is a lot shorter with 1 1/3 of a mile, so you'll have to lift a little bit into the corners and take care of your tires all through the race. But the next gen car is a lot easier on the tires than the A car or the B car oftenly used in iRacing. So and I think it's a great beginning to start with the next gen car. It's under development, but both by NASCAR, but also by iRacing. And I believe that starting with the next gen car in our series will give the drivers from Europe a little bit step in front. Anyhow, we'll see what will happen later on this broadcast. See if we can get some pictures from above on. We'll see. And here are some pictures from the track right now, and as we can see, Jonas Motos is on 19th position, and we are just waiting to throw over the transfer to our colleagues at RaceBot. A lot of information is in my ears at the same time, trying to focus on this here. With us today from RaceBot, we will have Evan O'Eary and Stefan Schlacher as commentators. They are a lot better than me and in doing this in English, and hopefully we will get to them pretty soon. I think it's time to hand over the broadcast. We were waiting for the sound from them right now. Time right now we will have some more pictures. Right now, Antiterro is the fastest car on track. Norbert Leitner is running second, and Kevin Adam as in third. Linus Broström fourth, and Dominik Lukomski at fifth right now. Cyril Nostobaum is on sixth, and Alexander Araldson on seventh. This is just a practice, so we're just waiting for the last 5 minutes before we will have the qualifying here at Nashville. Robert Erling is one of the new drivers who recently got his rating up to race in the European Eracing League, something that he's been working on a lot in the last couple of weeks. Will be really interesting to follow even also. Yes. I'm getting some messages from my producer right now that we will have RaceBot on air in just a second. Are we ready, Alexander? In about 30 seconds. So, and that's everything that we have actually from our studio here in the beginning. And there's not so much to talk about. We had 20 minutes to kill, and I think we've done it. We will still continue to see me in face right now, and let's see if we can get some data. They kind of can't see the live timing either. Can we get pictures from the race, Alexander? All right. So this is some pictures from RaceBot right now, and we are just waiting to do the transfer. Maybe we'll... Yes, we'll take a short little break, and we will be back with the full broadcast from RaceBot. and we are facing a little technical problem here, and we will have a short little break and a message from our partners for this series.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
To the European E-Racing and the European E-Racing League. Today we are hosting the premiere of the EEL here at Michigan International Speedway. It's a late start from Andreas Selander, which is highly chased by Arlson in behind. No cautions yet, even though there it is. Shouldn't have said anything. Commentator's curse there. And we're having a caution right now. And it looks like it's a team deal. Behind it's number 52 and 64. Thomas Corona. Right now, Kevin Adam is the only car that...
And we have yellow flag.
Multiple cars involved.
Drifting.
Behind number 9 of Leitner. And it's a really hard hit in front of us. And there is the big one. Ovinen is hit. Number 64, Kapal is out. And it's a push from Lukomsky at Kapal, causing the big havocs here. And then multiple cars involved. White flag is out. And the race is official. Adam in 4th, starting 5th. Here comes the last straightaway. Dominic Lukomsky, high or low. He's looking high and he's going high. And with him is Kevin Adams looking low for 3 wide here to do something and it's contact in the last corner. It's Lukomsky collecting number 99 of Søren Aspa, but the winner here is Oystein Walsh for Alkintec NHR by SimLab here in the premiere at Michigan. Congratulations to the Alkintec gang and to Walsh himself for taking home DW here in the premiere of the European eRacing League. Once again, the results from the first race, and back I am at in the studio, and we're right now facing some technical issues, and we are looking forward to see what's going to happen here at Nashville. And since we've talked a lot in the beginning, there's nothing really more to say about the track. I've tried to do some laps myself on it, and as we see a car going on the grass there into the pits. Anyhow, it's a really interesting track because it's quite fast with these cars, and the draft will play a role, and if you get 1 or 2 or 3 cars from the same team in up top on this track, it will be really hard to pass for the first person. We saw a lot of action from that in the Monday broadcast, the Thursday broadcast we had here at East, and the cars seem to the racing will be a little bit more open than the race we saw, the pack racing that we saw in Michigan. So that's 2 of the differences that we will face today. And the next gen car is, some might know, under development by NASCAR. It has been a co-development between iRacing and NASCAR have been collaborating with the makers and the larger teams and organizations of NASCAR to make this new car. Some of the differences with it is that it has just one lug nut. That will have been a little bit of a hot topic for the fans of NASCAR. People are afraid that NASCAR is building a GT car of the old stock car racing cars that we've seen earlier. The rear end axle is independent on this car, which is not on the older cars. They will still be using the older technique on the Xfinity cars and trucks and Orca for a couple of years to come. But in the Cup Series from next year and beyond, they will be using the next gen cars with individual rear ends. And this is one way to make the car handle in a better way. It's open up a lot of more opportunities to set up the car technically, and probably the car will be a little bit easier to handle on the road courses. And since NASCAR is trying out more and more road course racing, people have been talking about that this next gen car might be involved in the IMSA racing, but that's just rumors for now. We don't know anything until this car are on track and how many teams that actually are buying this car. And the combined development with iRacing will follow, and I believe that NASCAR will try different kind of downforce packages on the cars right now on iRacing. It's a high downforce package with a kind of a low horsepower input, and I don't think that iRacing and NASCAR will rise the horsepower too much, maybe 20 or 40 horsepowers during some tests, but on the other hand, the downforce will probably be altered from track to track. And as we're still facing some issues here, we'll see if we can get a hold of the they're working on the problems. A lot of action going on beside me right now. We'll see if if we can get the pause screen with countdown on from the production, and sitting here watching things go down is a little bit stressful. Anyhow, we'll see if we can get the pause screen going, Alexander. I will be back in a couple of minutes.
Wide. It was sort of slanted, that 3-1, and that's why he is back there. Maybe, just maybe, Uvinen just is able to go just that much quicker, so we'll have to see how that is going to develop as we see another 2-wide situation there in the background. I think that is for 6th position right now. Yes, it very much is, and that was also a little bit of a slide from the outside car.
Yeah, Luka Muski and Leitner can't seem to leave each other alone in this race. They've been side by side for at least half of the laps that we've been on so far. It's a good run around the outside for the Toyota this time around, though, and he's going to get the slipstream down the back straight as well. So he could well take the position. And speaking of taking positions, Nussbaum has just done that, and he's taken the lead away from Tony Uvinen again. So exchange of positions going on here. Certainly Uvinen marched up towards the front of the field. He was very strong, but not able to hold on to the lead.
Yeah, so really interesting. Nussbaum able to find his speed once again. He did not lose any more time. He now continues to be in that 30 mid-range. But Uvinen, I think he had a little bit of a slide because that was only a 30.9 last time around for the 84 driver. So we'll have to continue to monitor also that kind of thing. Meanwhile, we have side by side for 10th place between Stör and Amasia. 31 has the inside. The Coca-Cola livery, maybe, just maybe, able to get away with the 10th place, but a little bit of a wiggle out, down on the apron on the banking change. That is going to demote him even 2 positions, as now also Broström on the outside is going to be able to take over.
Now this little bit of a battle towards the back end of the top 10 here has certainly allowed the top 9 or so to break away from the rest of the field, and then you can see this pack of cars that was covered for the top 16. And then in the 7 car back there, Andrew Roos is just losing the back of these guys just a little bit. Kevin Adam and Annie Terho obviously both had some problems throughout the day, so that's understandable why they're so far off the back. But we do have a split in the field for the first time today, a major one at least, and we're seeing it's quite great racing actually in the midfield at the moment. They're battling over the top 10 places, but all of these guys will be getting points here today, by the way. The points go down to something like 60th position or so that's not going to be a problem here today. Lots of points on offer. It's kind of a bit of a throwback to the old NASCAR point systems, which I'm very much a fan of, by the way. Hopefully it can produce a good championship for us. Yeah, a lot of points on offer, and these guys fighting very hard for them, even though there's only 3 or 4 points on the line right now between these guys. It's so early on that you just got to go for it, whatever position it is.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, we continue to see these guys fighting extremely hard for every single position that they can get. Right now, there is a fight here for the back end of the first group between Solo and Toika, as they continue to be too wide. And it is really incredible that these guys continue to fight so hard right now, knowing that they have to save their tires ever so slightly at the very least to be able to make the numbers that they require. So a little bit interesting in that part, but also at the same time they're fighting so hard with everybody that everybody isn't able to save tires, and there it comes in, who can manage their tires the best while still having to fight for every position.
That was a bit close there between, well, everybody really. Eric Blix is under a bit of pressure on the inside line there, and Leitner's just gone excuse me, Leitner's just gone all the way around the outside in the 9 car, and he gets through pretty easily actually. The 13 and the 46 can't really capitalise on that little slowdown there, because they're battling side by side themselves, as you can see, over 8th position at the moment. Around the outside using the high line for Solo, and he's going to be able to just get clear off of turn 2. Daniel Solo into 8th position. Timo Toika not able to get through, and will have to stay in 9th as the battle for 4th also commences. Luka Musky and Selander, but they've got to be careful here. You can see the battle going on side by side, but contact! No! Goodness me, and there's going to be a spinner here, surely. They've all managed to keep things on the road, have they?
Oh,
Selander's into the barriers. There is the hard hit into the wall. There's the caution flag, the first of the day. A very, very long-winded crash, but I'm afraid it's not turned out very well for Selander. He's going to be severely damaged in this one, and here it is.
Yeah, just ever so slightly drifts up the road, and in reality he loses it on the grass there to the right side, and that's what made him crash in the very end and bring out that yellow flag. Yeah, outside car was holding the line, so now just ever so slightly creeping up the track, and on the grass, as you're able to see, no grip whatsoever for these NASCAR Cup cars, and that's exactly what caused it. He just wasn't able to recover from that very slight slide that it was having on the grass, and that's why he shot up the track into the barrier, and they had to bring out that caution.
I have to say, great driving as well from Norbert Leitner in the 9 car, because he was right on the outside there, holding his line as you mentioned, but he did get clobbered just a little bit and held on very, very admirably to that car. So yeah, fair play to him, because he was in big trouble, to be honest. Pit lane is open right now, but with only 4 sets of tyres on the day, are they going to take them? Well, there's a bit of a fake and a bit of indecision from our leader, Cyril Nussbaum, but he comes down pit lane, and it looks like pretty much everybody is going to follow him at this stage, waiting to see if anybody is going to risk it and stay out. It doesn't look like it. The entire 19-car field is now on pit lane, and Stefan, it's all about hitting your marks right here. Make sure you do not have to reverse.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also important to hit exactly the spots where your tire changes are positioned. So with Cyril, by the way, this was a little bit of a test from Cyril. He did dive into pit lane and made a small wiggle. Oh, look at that! 2 tires, maybe there. 2
tires. It must be from Gabriel Storr. He was 10th position on the entry to this, and that's a very good race off pit road between those. Three wide over the line they go, but it's going to be Gabriel Storr who's going to take the lead out of this one. The only 2 tyre change, other than Yenis Modos as well, who's done a shorter pit stop there. We've got a few longer ones in the background. For those not inside the top 13, they've decided to take some damage repairs here in this one. So 2 tyres, maybe even no tyres in this one. We'll try and get to the bottom of that one for you, but it's an interesting call, and this early on it's not a bad one, because 4 sets of tyres for a 160 lap race, it's pretty simple maths really. 40 laps on a set of tyres, you know, that's not really going to work, because we're only 24 laps into the race, so it might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. So 6 seconds, 6.8 seconds by the way, Gabriel Storr was stationary, so really interesting how that's going to develop. We're pretty much right away going to see if it is a no tire or just 2 tire change for him, as the 55 of Janos Modos now into his pit stall. Seems like that is also 0 tires for that driver. Either way, it's going to shake up this field quite heavily.
Sorry, it's a second pit stop there from Modos there, which I'm a little bit puzzled about.
Sticker tires
use Luka Muskie very wide and even into the barrier. Got a long way to go on the right hand side. How they use Luka Muskie very wide and even into the barrier slightly on the right hand side. Hagman is going to take second place away, recovering after his poor opening couple of laps. It seems that the pole sitters from both of the starts so far have dropped back quite dramatically. We obviously know the reason for Storr, and his drop back in this one outside of the top 10 now, but drop back now that it seems to be happening on absolutely hounding. Hagman at least is having a resurgence after his drop back as well that we saw a little bit earlier on, absolutely hounding Nussbaum actually, who's really put on a good show so far, and he's been leading a few laps here, trying to obviously get those 5 points for leading the most, as well as two leading in the last one as well, which would be a good idea of course, but let's wait and see on that one. Two leaders really hounding each other, and the battle for third is fierce right now, and this just leaves them in danger of letting those front two get away.
On the left side now, back to I'm just also continuing to have an eye down in down for Stör there on the left side now, back to 15th place, already lost over 3 around the Nashville to Nussbaum and Speedway. That is just how much really tight drop off there really is around the Nashville Speedway tires. So really seems to be a bad decision to not go for 4 fresh fighting tires in that first restart, but still 130 laps to go. The fighting continues to be on.
How is that going to play into his hands later on? He has certainly saved a set there. That's the crucial thing. He saved a set at least. So how is that going to play into his hands later on is the question. It may look pretty bad right now, but how is it going to look later on in the race is the question. Luka Muskie, fastest lap around last time on lap 30 there, so he's clearly going fairly quickly, but he is in the slipstream and the draft of that's got to be cars in front, him out battling side by side either, as much of the rest of the field actually are here, so that's got to be helping him out at the very least, as we continue to watch these two battling cars coming over the line right now, the 33 and the 31 of Massier and Gunnarsson back end of the top 10, but jumping up further forward, there's a battle for second, which is a bit more important. Tony Uvernen trying to march forward again, not a great pit stop I have to say, but we know how good he is at going through the traffic, because it didn't take him very long to get to the front last time.
It cost him so much because his pit stop was it actually was the pit lane traverse did cost him so much because his pit stop was actually 6 times faster than the one of Hagman. Just his pit lane time was so much slower than everybody around. So that is really interesting how he managed to do that. Maybe got held up by a car ahead of him driving into pit lane or something like that. Either way, Nussbaum continues to lead. Lukamovsky now with the fastest lap as well, and back into the top 3, the 74 race.
It does indeed, but how long is it going to stay there for, really? Because there's a fierce battle going on. For the first time today, we find Linus Broström in the top 5. Eric Blicht is also here as well, but not for the first time. He's also within this little pack. We've got, at this time, an 8-car group. It's basically the usual suspects, but without Cylinder, who's still in the pit lane right now. That was a close moment, though, coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, in very deed, I think that is Broström that we're looking at here. Yeah, 71, the black car, 4-wheel slide out of turn 2, nearly into the side of Uvinen there for that 4th place. Really lucky for both of them that they didn't touch tires, because that could have been extremely bad for them. But Broström continues to be kept at the low line. It continues to be too wide as we also go to the lead. Too wide now. Hagman to the inside.
He is indeed, but it doesn't look like he's got great purchase on the inside, I'm afraid. The outside line is steamrolling him at the moment. It certainly was on the back straight there. Lukamovsky was well in front, and Uvinen trying to do the same. Look at the run that Eric Blicht has got as well. He's going to try and head down the inside of the 84 car, but can't quite do it. He just backs off for the moment, and it continues side by side. Lukamovsky this time around the outside of 2, and this is going to yield him 2nd place by the looks of things, and Uvinen's going to follow him through. When these guys stack up on the outside line, they get the run off the bank in there, Stefan. They line up, slipstream, bump draft each other, and you stand no chance on the inside.
Yeah, they do not stand a chance on the inside. Also, the thing that you are really troubled with on the inside is that, especially out of 4, you get a little bit of a slide going on as well. The car really starts to oversteer, and you really are starting to hurt your tires, especially after you're already running 4, 5, 6 laps down there. And you can see that looking at Broström, that he's starting to have those little slides that he always has to catch out of 4, especially if he has been kept very down at the bottom. So Broström really has to look out for his tires right now and not continue to fight on the inside.
Yeah, all of these guys are going to have to consider that as we aim to get towards the 1/4 mark in this race already. It's been flying by, but the pace that these guys have been going at is hardly surprising, really. You can see them roaring down there, and it just seems as well they're just getting onto the back of these guys. We're seeing that in the black and gold car there. I can't quite work out which one it is, but you can just see leaving a couple of car lengths just towards the back of this field, just in case something goes wrong. And this early on in the race, it might not be the worst strategy at all to just get onto the back of the leading group by every stretch of the imagination. I think it's the 82. Get onto the back of the leading group, but don't get too involved, because as we've seen, this is crazy racing up front, and we've already seen one casualty, of course, with André Salander. He's had 9 minutes of repairs. He's just left the pit lane. He's 15 laps down at the moment as well, so he is in the race, and he just needs to get up to minimum speed now to try and get some points in this one.
Yeah, most definitely. By the way, this field, unlike the last green flag run, it's continuing to be much closer together. We still have the top, 11 drivers within 2 seconds. Even Roos still is juggling around that 2-second mark. So these guys are much better. There we have Stör, 15th place, already 11 seconds down on the leaders. This strategy really didn't pay off for the number 16.
It hasn't paid off as things stand right now. He's with Terho and Modos at the moment as well, who've not had the best of races so far, but shuts the door on the exit of 4 and continues on in what is 9th place right now. Gunnarsson has been demoted to 10th. Finally, for the first time in this race, it seems we've got single file in this front group. It's been crazy side by side the entire time, and finally, after 40 laps, these guys have finally decided to fall in behind one another.
Yeah, and that is exactly the reason why we still have such a large front pack. It is because they are not fighting as hard as we have seen in the first portion of this race. By the way, with the completion of lap 42, Salander, the 140 under Salander, finally is officially, I think, now down out of the race. No, actually, sorry, he's still racing. My bad, he's 15 laps down. So if he goes down another lap, he is going to have to park it, so he really has to find good speed in that car.
He does indeed, and he needs to try and find a few wave bars as well to give himself a little bit more comfort in that one. But you can imagine his car's going to be quite damaged even after the repairs that they have affected. 9 minutes on pit lane in his pit box there to repair things, and we don't have any of that stupid crash clock rule in this series, thankfully, so we can still see drivers in the race after these accidents, which is, I think, is a good thing, as we're looking at a very in-depth view of one of these Toyotas, because Paul Mazier is giving a big bump draft to Timo Teucher into 6th position. It looks like it's worked for the moment. These two Toyotas just pairing up on the inside line there, and that's kind of what you need to do, really. Bump someone else out front, and it does tend to help you gain a position as well. And that was good teamwork from the two of them, even if they're not officially teammates, so they're just driving the same manufacturer, but they did working together well there.
Yeah, but I think at least it was always the case for me when I was racing in the NASCAR Eracing series. There was always a little bit of gamesmanship when I was driving my Toyota Camry, that I was also trying to help a little bit better those Toyota Camry drivers around me other than the Ford and Chevrolets. So maybe there's also a little bit of thing going on there between Teucher and Mazier. By the way, they have to be a little bit careful, as once again side by side there between the 31 and 46, because if they are fighting too hard, we already see a little bit of a gap between those two and P number 5. That top 5 will try to run away from them.
Yeah, they do have to be careful, and the guys behind these battling pair do have to be careful themselves as well, because the exact same thing could happen as this leading pack of 13 just stretches out a little bit more. It was a pack of 9 at this time last green flag run, and we're getting towards the amount of lap. I think it was around about lap 22-23 when the caution came out last time out, and now this green flag run is going on for a good 22 laps at the end of this one, so we are certainly in a similar window to where we were before, but plenty away from green flag pit stop still, as we're almost free wide off of turn 4, very nearly in this battle for P3. Eric Blick deciding not to head all the way down to the apron to take it 3 wide, just pushing pushing Uven and trying to get into that podium spot, but not able to, and this is going to stack the field up behind and let the 2 leaders get away.
Yeah, these guys are fighting extremely hard. Once again, the battling has picked up, and you can immediately see that second pack that was starting to develop has once again caught yellow and brown car. That is Timo Teucher, as these guys continue to be side by side for their 3rd place. It's really hurting. They've already nearly lost a full second to your 2 leaders.
They have indeed, and it might be a gap that doesn't really come back under a green flag run here. Let's wait and see. This is almost a bit of a preview to Talladega, which we will visit at round 6 of this championship. It is complete pack racing here at the Nashville SuperSpeedway. Uvenen has finally taken control of that 3rd place, but Eric Blick wants a piece of the action here, and Hackman's trying to fend him off. They're both trying to be pushed to victory and pushed to glory by Teucher and Mazier, who are both stacked up in behind. Hagman going a car length wider than everybody else in this one, but maybe just a car length too wide there, and he lets Blick in, and also looks like he's going to maybe even allow Paul Mazier to get involved, but that run off of the corner for Hagman has just got himself back up towards the front. He seems to be taking a very wide line through these corners at the moment, very high line, and he's getting a good run through the exits, but he's letting a lot of cars down the inside through the mid part of the corner, and now finally he takes control and they single file themselves out, maybe starting to realise the damage that they've just done. Yeah, and you can really see why this track is called the Nashville SuperSpeedway, because you just can't do that. You can't run 2x2 for such a long period, because this track, this concrete track, offers so much grip, and it is so extremely wide that this can work very easily as well. However, as we see, you still do lose time, so it's really interesting now what the 12 of Hagman can do. We're starting to see the guys up ahead running a little bit away for that 1st place, but Uvinen and Blix are starting to close that gap back down again. But for 6th place, it continues. Mazier and Teucher continue to fight it out. Yeah, they were doing so even before this became a real big pack. You remember they got split off from the 2 and they were just a battling pair really, but now it's all of a sudden comes to the fore, and it becomes very important actually that they get into this one and not getting into each other, because just making a little bit of contact on the way into turn 1 there.
That could have been extremely dangerous there between the 31 and 71, but Maziar with that bump from Broström into turn number 1, it really did help him to get away now from Toika, really able to get up to speed now, so already 3/10 up away. Now Toika finds himself defending from 2 lanes, the 24 and the 71, both wanting to get past the speed.
Yeah, absolutely, it's complete chaos on back at the moment. 13 cars still very much involved in this, if you kind of ignore the fact that the 2 leaders are getting away at the moment. So let's wait and see on that one. Nussbaum and Luka Muski working very well together at the moment, it has to be said. Not much side by side between them at the moment, and it looks like they're just trying to get away from the rest, and it's a very good idea really, especially from Luka Muski. He can save fuel a lot, and he can push Nussbaum on these straights here, but you know, it means that they're getting away from this kind of crazy pack racing, so it's a win-win for both of them.
Yeah, most definitely. It is a great win-win, because now it's 1.2 seconds between themselves and 3rd place, so this is very, very good. And it continues to be extremely good. By the way, I'm sorry, Timo, that I called you a Swede. Obviously, is a Finn. I don't know where that came from.
He is indeed. It's currently nestled in 7th place, as you can see, in the brown and yellow car, which is probably a controversial livery, to be honest, to use those couple of colours, but there we are. He's behind one of the nicest liveries, I think, on the grid here, with Marcus Hagman just in front, and obviously you can see just a few cars back. I think that's Ardilson in a very similar livery there, looking very nice indeed, but coming under fire just a little bit from Timo Toika, who's starting to make a bit of progress here. He was just on the lower reaches of the top 10 when this race really got green and got settled into that first green flag run, but now he's really starting to make a stride forward and knocking on the door of a top 5 as Marcus Hagman is going from pole and continuing to go backwards here.
Yeah, and Prost just did drop 2 positions as well, from 8th to 10th place. So these guys are really starting to hurt their tires now. That you can really see, especially out of 4, how these cars start to wiggle a little bit their way out of that turn. And that is exactly that 4-wheel slide oversteer that I was talking about. These guys are really hurting their tires with all their fighting that they're now doing late in the run. And so they really have to be careful, because a little bit of oversteer can go a very long way. And that's another touch!
Goodness me, they're all going to hang on to it by the looks of things, heading out very, very wide indeed. I think it was the 7 of Andrew Roos there, and he's gathered it up just about. They're still 3 wide, heading on the front straight now and in towards turn 1. This has created quite a large split in the group now as we see these guys battling. It looks like the top 7 really getting away, and they're starting to get themselves into little smaller packs of groups here and racing quite hard with each other in varying degrees of side by side, I suppose you could call it. But yeah, that was a sketchy moment, and well done, to be fair, to everybody for hanging on to it. Could have easily ended up in a big pile-up.
Yeah, with that shove that could have especially been very bad for Roos, but he was able to save it just in time and slide up the track. Thankfully, once again, Nashville SuperSpeedway, such a wide track that he was able to chase down that rear and get it on the check again in time before the barrier would have greeted him with open arms. And here goes the 46 now to the inside, maybe trying to be a little bit of a push there into the 31 to finally get him past Solo, but it seems like he is going to stay away from trying to do a little bit of a bump to the 31.
Yeah, Per Mazet is making good progress here as we've got 100 laps to go as we speak right now. Lap 60 just completed and 100 still to go here in this one. Still side by side between Mazet and Blicht, who's stuck up on the outside at the moment. Let's not forget, 2nd place coming into today in the championship, but almost certainly, if things stay as they are anyway, is going to be heading away with the championship lead after just 2 rounds. So let's wait and see on that one, using the high line here once again, but not able to do it. Mazet getting up into 4th position. It's all helping the 2 leaders, of course, but I guess it doesn't even matter. Even if these guys were running in flying formation, to be honest, nose to tail in single file, I can't see them getting that duo back unless there's, you know, some real gains under green flag pit stops, or a caution is what they're going to need.
Yeah, green flag pit stops will be really interesting because it can also drive into pit lane from turn number 4. And there's quite some banking difference between the apron and the track itself. I think the apron here actually doesn't have any banking to it whatsoever on pit entry, so really have to be careful to not drop off too fast and too heavy coming onto the pit road if we have any green flag runs. Especially with how worn out those tires will be after a very long run of fighting, especially late into the run. I really don't want to be behind the driving wheel of these guys' cars.
No, they've certainly got their hands full at the moment. Eric Blitz is one of those, of course, with Uven on the outside, getting pushed by Timo Teucher, who is, well, giving him a big hand, actually, and has pushed him into what is 4th place now, but Teucher's not going to gain a place himself, I don't think. Those guys behind have got a little bit organised now, with Aldilson, sorry, not Aldilson leading the group, Brostrom leading that group, and Hagman pushing him along right now. So they're getting quite organised, and it's quite good actually, because it means that this is completely going to reform. We saw this group's pretty much split down the middle, but now we've got a real big pack of pack racing, and this gap to the lead is just going to continue to grow, over 2.5 seconds now, and this is not conducive to really settling a margin. We're seeing the lap times, by the way, edge towards the mid 31s now, which is obviously not where we were before. We were under the 30-second mark before, so we're over 1.5 seconds down on where we were. Pit stops surely can't be too far on the horizon. They're more than 40 laps ago these guys pitted in. I'm not entirely sure how long they can go on fuel, but the tyres certainly are going to be screaming out for it.
Yeah, they're right now on the 42nd lap of this stint, and you know, yes, the times are edging closer towards that 31.5, but if they're running single file, they still can do 31.1s. Actually, Dominik Luminovsky right now, the 74 in 2nd place, just did a 31.095, so these guys are still extremely fast. Even Brostrom with a 31.083 that last circulation around, so these guys can still be extremely fast on these old tires, but they are fighting so hard and continuing to fight so hard that they're losing time continuously to the leaders, and that's why we have right now that 2.5 second split between 1st and 3rd.
Looking up towards the front, Eric Blitz is suddenly dropping back quite quickly. He was contending for 3rd not so long ago, and now he's holding on to 8th position, or trying to, because pole sitter Marcus Hagman is using the high side to try and get through, and he's going to use a teammate as well in a very similar cars to try and get up towards that position, and indeed gets through, clears Eric Blitz by the turn, but can't quite shut the door on him through the middle of it, and now he's in a bit of trouble, but he's once again going to get help from Andrew Roos, who's really recovering after the big slide he had about 10 laps ago, and doing so quite well. This is really problematic for Eric Blitz now. As I mentioned, he was right up there towards the podium spaces. Now he's down here battling with these guys, and it just shows that once you get out of line in one of these, once you start going backwards, it can be difficult to stop.
Yeah, exactly. The low line is the faster one. That is most definitely the case here, as Blitz now even in trouble of losing the top 10 spot. So he really is in trouble right now. But that also is because he was fighting so extremely hard, and maybe not used to fighting that hard here in Nashville, and that's why he was using up his tires more than his drivers around him, and that's why we see him drop right now. Or maybe just he has overworked them. They are a little bit hot right now, and he has to cool them off again to be able to once again attack us. There's a 3-wide situation.
Good lord. Paul Mazier looks like he's going to hold on to 3rd position, which is where he was before, but Timo Teucher and Tony Uvenen are battling it out for 4th now. Remarkably, they're actually in the same position as they were before, but Uvenen is going to try and change that, getting through on the high side from Teucher, and he's going to get help from Aldilson here as well, who's really stealthily got himself up towards the top 5 right now, which is the way to do it, of course, in any race of any distance. Really just stealthily get your way up towards the front and get yourself out of incidents. Speaking of incidents, off the road goes Tony Uvenen after such a great day. He's held on to it. He's sliding through the grass, but somehow we stay green.
Wow, what a save by Uvenen in that 84. Gets the touch from Timo Teuker, who just has that four-wheel slide up the track. The 84 not exactly on the outside line. He doesn't need to. No way he needs to be all the way to the outside, but that was why Timo Teuker did touch him. There you can see that four-wheel slide starting to happen. Just drifts ever so slightly too high, touches the 84. And what a save commences.
Goodness me. Very, very, well, a small slice of luck involved, but an awful lot of skill as well to be able to hold on to that one. Uvenen is now down in 13th position with Teuker in 12th. And yeah, they're going to be trying to recover now, but they're definitely detached from this group. And everybody's detached from these guys. Cyril Nussbaum and also Dominik Lukamuski, who've been really romping away with this one over this green flag run over the last 50 laps or so as they get towards the back of Jonas Modos here. He went for a slightly strange pit stop first time down pit lane, then he went for a second one, and I'm not entirely sure, I'm doubting whether he even caught the back of the train by the time we went green, but either way it doesn't really matter anyway. It doesn't look like he's quite got the pace of the rest of these guys coming over the line right now in the low 31s. He's in the high 31s right now, which is not where you want to be at all. So these two Toyotas working well together, and they're going to lap Modos, but I think this is going to be most disappointing for Kevin Adam, who's been in the lucky dog spot for ages and was crying out for a caution, but now his life has just been made a lot more difficult, or will be made a lot more difficult when Modos is overtaken here.
Yeah, Adam might have liked that for a split second once the wreck was called out, but then realized no caution, and then he was probably quite sour at that. But either way, Modos is going to get lapped right now, right here. The 55 goes to the high side. Two Toyota Camrys of Nussbaum and Lukamovsky are gonna drive past, and there we go. We now have only 16 remaining on the lead lap. The next car in line, that is Gabriel Stör. Believe it or not, 23 seconds already back. He has somewhat stopped the bleeding because these guys have started to slow down more and more. But he continues to be a good 3/4 per lap slower than the rest of the field.
Yeah, indeed, he's continuing to lose a bit of time here, but and he has, well, we believe he hasn't taken on any sets of tyres throughout this race so far, so he's still got 3 sets to put on remaining. So if there's a flurry of late cautions towards the end, then he may have a set available where everybody else doesn't. That could play into his hands, but first things first, he's got to stay on the lead lap here. All of that tyre saving and all of those extra sets is useless if he's a lap down.
Yeah, exactly. For Stör, I think he was banking on another quick caution here, and that's why he stayed out on all the tires. So yeah, it is a little bit interesting. There, by the way, can see all the lap times for the 99, our leader right now, and you can pretty much use that to also calibrate your clock, because this is incredibly consistent from Nussbaum.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just not even moving those times. It's just like clockwork, as he's saying. Very good driving indeed. I'm just a little bit concerned. I'm trying to work out who's up the road here from the two leaders, because one of them's definitely Gabriel Stör, but the other one could be Kevin Adam here, could be in a little bit of trouble. The reason I'm sort of surprised by that, because he was third at Michigan, so surely he would have been a little bit better than that. But
actually, I think that's Salander.
Sorry, yeah, it is. You're absolutely correct on that one. It's the other lap cost Salander. That's equally bad, actually, because he's kind of running low on how many laps he can lose here, and he's going to want to keep away from these guys at all costs as well, really.
Yeah, the thing for Salander is right here, right now, that he is going to be 16 laps down if he gets lapped in a few moments' time. The question here is, would that already be a DNF for him, or is that the maximum limit that you can behind? I'm not 100% sure about that. Either it's 16 that you can't be behind, or it's 17 that you can't behind the leader. So will be interesting to see the ruling of the European Eracing on that call.
Yeah, I think, I mean, being 16 laps down, it is 10%, so I guess he is still within 90% of the race distance if he continues on in that way. So I suppose he might be able to he might get away with it, but either way, that kind of safety net of a lap is going to go away from him. And you know, if he gets involved in another accident, then obviously it's completely out the window. So yeah, he's just trying to get points at the moment. The maximum he's going to get, well, not the maximum, but at the moment he's going to score 63 on a day when he could have had a complete donut. So yeah, he's doing well to keep on in the race at the moment. And of course, he could gain some points if there are some bigger accidents for those up towards the front in the second half of the race, of which we are now in, because we've crossed lap 80. We've got 78 to go at the line here. It's just about to cross the line here once again for the 82nd time. And yeah, we've got 78 remaining in this race. These guys, 2 sets of tyres for most still to put on in this one. With less than 80 to go, that's absolutely comfortable for everybody, you would expect.
Question is, how much longer will those drivers be able to stay out on the fuel run? Sadly, I haven't done enough laps to actually 100% know how long you can stay out on fuel here, so I'm not gonna try to guesstimate exactly how many laps those will be, but I imagine it's gonna be very close because they have just started lap number 60.
Yeah, you would imagine so. As you say, we're 60 laps past that last pit stop now, and it's a 160 lap race after all. And given the way the tyre sets are, I was expecting pit stops maybe even a little bit shorter than this, but they can't be too far away at this point. And as we talked about, green flag pit stops are going to be upon us, and they're always a dangerous part of the race, really, trying to brake and turn and while coming down banking at these gradients as well. It's very, very weird, really. These cars do not like to turn aggressively, and they don't like to really stop either, so it's often the most difficult lap of all, the in-lap in one of these races.
Yeah, no, one of the probably hardest in-laps that you can have. Like I already explained earlier, the apron, no banking, quite high banking in turns 3 and 4, so it really makes hard to judge your speed correctly when you start to hit that apron, because it's super easy to lose these NASCAR Cup cars if you have a big transition from the apron to the banking of the track itself. So it will be interesting to see how much practice these guys have been able to take, and especially how well they're able to take that drop.
Paul Mazier just dropping a couple of positions here in this one. He was running in the 3rd place, but now he is in 5th, but looking to bounce back almost immediately ahead of Alderson in the number 24. Alexander Alderson on the outside for this one, but going to get a fantastic run on the exit. Can he hold it there through the middle of the corner? He absolutely can, and he's going to be clear in front by turn 3 here, because he's going to have Marcus Hagman pushing him to glory here. And there you go, Hagman's going to even push himself to glory and get himself a car length clear of of Paul Mazier, who was trying to gain those positions. And it is dangerous sometimes trying to just gain one place, and you can actually end up losing another, as Eric Blicht also on a bit of a recovery right now, gets up into 6th place. And Paul Mazier perfectly highlighting really the dangers of actually going for a move in a situation like this. When everyone's so single file, it can be very tricky to get back in line.
Yeah, exactly. Really can hurt you running, like we saw right there. By the way, at the front, Lukomski, he is starting to drop away a little bit from Nussbaum. The gap has already grown to 1/10, but he still continues to be faster than Broström and Arlidsson. So it is not too bad for him that he's starting to lose Nussbaum, but obviously as this run continues, he knows that he doesn't have the tires of Nussbaum throughout the run.
Yeah, absolutely, just dropping off in pace, and if I were him at this stage, I would be in the pit lane. But let's not forget, he's been saving fuel for this entire stint, really, and now, well, we don't know if it was just a bit of a misjudgment, a mistake that's caused him to lose the draft, and then obviously the effect of that just snowballs, or whether this is just a gradual thing that has been happening over the last few laps. He's lost 0.02 of a second on the last lap, but is that really enough for you to be able to lose the draft so severely here? I'm not entirely sure, so we'll have to monitor this pace between the two over the next few laps, but just dips down below 0.7 of a second now and starts to close in again, so just maybe turning on a little bit of pace and just using that to get up back towards the leader again. But yeah, Nussbaum would very much like this race to stay clean and green for the rest of this one, really, because he might be able to make it. And we're getting towards the point as well where these guys could actually make it on only this next pit stop, if indeed we stay green the entire race.
Yeah, we're closing in on lap number 70 of this stint already on 67. Obviously, they did have 2 laps of caution on this stint as well, so that is a little bit slanted, but you can pretty much say 66 laps worth of fuel have been used thus far. So really good knowledge for these guys, because they know that they're closing in more and more towards that crucial lap where they can just go with one more stop as the 55, our first driver to blink and drive into pit lane.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is scheduled, but he did have a fair amount of damage to the left-hand side of the car there, so sorry, the right-hand side, left-hand side as we were looking at it, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that is contact with the wall that has brought him down, but yeah, we're very close indeed to pit stops. Paul Mercier now also comes in. He's got a bit of a few scrapes, excuse me, as I try and find the right words. There it is on the right-hand side of the car once more. Not sure if he's come into contact with the wall very recently. If we put 2 and 2 together, these two may have been into contact, because let's not forget, Modos is a lapped car. He's taking a bit of time in the pit lane. Mercier was presumably in the similar sort of region, so putting 2 and 2 together, possibly those two could have been in contact, and Mercier, not too much damage to repair, but still.
Terho did, by the way, join Mercier on the pit lane as this lap around Leitner and Uvenen come into pit lane as well. As we see, I think that is Mercier pitting out there on the apron. So yeah, the pit stops most definitely have kicked off now, and it's going to be interesting to see as our leader now comes into pit lane. Lukomski also joins him, and these are the only 2 of the top 5 that drive into pit lane. So very interesting gamesmanship is played out here.
Yeah, absolutely, just following him in, the 74, and I'm a little bit surprised by that. I would have thought after spending so long behind the 99 in this stint that he would be able to go a little bit longer on the fuel, or maybe he's just playing mind games going in at the same time to have a slightly shorter pit stop. But we've got 65-ish laps to go here. These guys are going to be able to make it to the end if we stay green the entire time, and they've still got another set of tyres to put on if they would like. This is their second stop of the day, and just look at that, Lukomski's a bit closer than where he was coming on to pit lane though. His pit stop was a couple of attempts quicker, but it doesn't look like he's quite close enough in draft range just for the moment as the leaders go roaring on by. They're going to be put a lap down briefly.
Yeah, and for this battle pack, Solo did pit in last lap around from this battle pack. I think that's the 71 pitting, and yes, it very indeed is. Does not overshoot. I think that in behind is Blixed with him. Yeah, it is the 95. So 2 more of the lead pack drive into pit lane. How will this affect Alex, Hagman, and the rest of those guys?
Let's wait and see. Pulling into the pit box, and there's no prizes for guessing how many tyres he's taking on and how much fuel as well. They're going to be packing that one full, and they're going to be doing the same to Eric Blicht and Timo Tokyo as well, who's recovering, let's not forget, with that small incident with Tony. Oh, goodness me. You just saw there the 24 going deep into the pit stalls, and sorry, the pit lane. And Marcus Hagman very nearly followed him straight off.
Yeah, both Alexander Allison and Marcus Hagman, the 24 and 12, did overshoot quite heavily that pit entry, but they were able to wheel it back in time to not go and get themselves an invalid pit entry that could have really cost them a lot of time. You're already losing a full lap anyway to the cars that are circling at full speed. So Roos and Elling are the 2 guys that still owe us a pit entry. The 7 and 82 though continue on their way.
Paul Mercier, excuse me, with the fantastic undercut there. As you can see, he's going to be in 3rd place when this all figures itself out again. Brostrom is going to be next in line after that, ahead of Eric Blichten. You can see the guys who've pitted a little bit later on are going to be in real trouble here. We were talking about the tyre fall off here, the new tyres being, sorry, the old tyres being a good 1.5 seconds, maybe more, off of the brand spanking new ones, and you know, these guys, even a lap or two, that's going to gain you a lot of time. That's exactly what it's done for Paul Mazier, because not only has it actually got him into third, it's actually given him a little bit of breathing room as well, which is we haven't often seen so far. So a good strategy from him. It's just about holding on now for the rest of the race, really, with those tyres.
Yeah, as Erling and Roos are in pit lane, that means Nussbaum and Lukomski are gonna get once again back that lead from those two. There we can see the 99 drive through turns 1 and 2, and the gap has continued to open up, by the way, between Nussbaum and Lukomski on the first 3 laps of the stint for them, as Lukomski now about 1.5 seconds back to Nussbaum.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an even bigger gap than what we saw before the pit stops. I mentioned the pit stop was a couple of attempts quicker and 3 attempts quicker in the lane from Lukomski as well, but clearly getting on to pit lane and getting off of pit lane is not quite been as good as Nussbaum, or indeed the outlaps and in-laps have just not been as good, because he's lost a fair amount of time there, and that's going to be difficult to get back. We talk about this circuit being really high speed. That often means there's only quite so fast you can actually go here, and Lukomski's going to have real trouble reeling that margin in without a caution.
So that was, if I read correctly, 71 laps from Roos that he was able to drive on that stint. So very interesting numbers, as I think actually all of these guys are good to go till the end, because we have seen over 65 laps from these guys of runnage. So they are less than 60 laps to go already. With the 7 laps that Nussbaum has already driven, this is just about good enough for them to finish this race on just this stint.
Certainly doesn't mean there's no battling going on up and down the order right now. Timo Teucher is in amongst it again, as he has been throughout pretty much the entirety of this race, recovering of course with Tony Uvenen, the two that came into contact, now working together really to get up the order, but Daniel Solo is trying to halt their progress as much as possible and squeezes Uvenen on the high line there, and this looks like it may well work out. They bump and barge just a little bit, and now it looks like Teucher might try and get a channel all of his own, but it's not quite going to on this occasion. He's going to watch on from behind as the two go dead even into 3 as well. They're getting very aggressive with each other and starting to lean on each other just ever so slightly, door to door between the two, and Teucher decides to go with Daniel Solo on this one. He's got the high line and the long way round the well, not a tri-oval, but the kind of dogleg thing that you would call a start-finish straight, as they go door to door and slam into the door this time from Uvenen. That was a firm slap in the face, and he's finally decisively got that place now.
Yeah, and look at Timo Teucher, who went way down the banking to avoid any possible spins from that number 12, I think that was. 13 of Daniel Solo. Thankfully was needed, though, that avoidance, as he was able to save that quite nicely. But here now comes Andrew Roos to the inside of Timo Teucher, and he is going to get away that 9th place with that little bit of fresher tires that he has over Teucher.
Does indeed, and certainly using them right now. Top 10 as well for the 7 is a very good place to be. Because he was struggling a little bit earlier, as Paul Mazier is starting to feel the effects of those slightly older tyres already, because Linus Brostum and Eric Blix have both got through on him already there, so that's not great news. But Uvenen just pulls wide there, and Teucher has been let through. Looks like those 3 with Solo as well may well continue to battle throughout the remainder of this race. Just over 50 laps to go right now, as we see the battle for third. Linus Brostum getting out front. Paul Mazier won't be regretting his choice, I don't think, because he was quite far down in the pack and struggling to get through the pack actually when we saw him last, but he is already losing half a second on that last lap to Brostum and Blix.
Yeah, this is really bad news. Oh, there's a little bit of smoke, I think there was in turns number 3. Maybe a little bit of internet juice that was running out for someone. But yeah, also Lukomski, by the way, is continuing to bleed away from Nussbaum. Now 2.3 seconds the gap is. But the good thing for him still is that Brostrom nowhere able to go the same speed of the 74. So that 2nd place, at least right now, seems to be very secure for him as well.
Seems to be, but yeah, because the margins out front are really quite large at the moment, and the pack racing that we saw earlier on has certainly been brought to an end with just over 50 laps to go right now. It could well stay like this towards the end of the race. There's duos and trios of battles just going on for these places outside of the top two. Certainly this one for third looks like it may well continue on, particularly Blicht and Broström, very similar on pace given they pitted on the same lap, and poor Mazier doesn't look like he's quite got the pace to actually cope with them, and he's got quite a long way to fall here. And if you look all the way down to 11th, he's Daniel Solo only 6 seconds behind him, and you fear for Mazier that he might well even fall outside of the top 10 in this race, which would be unfortunate for him.
Yeah, Mazier is struggling quite a bit with his tires already. I mean, he is right now by far one of the oldest, or he is right now by far the oldest tire on his car around him, because Erik Blicht, he's on his 13th lap, Alexander Arlitzen is on his 12th lap, and Paul Mazier right now already on the 17th lap of his tires. So he is really starting to get into the point where the tires aren't fresh anymore, where they're starting to slide, where they're starting to really heat up and not lose that heat anymore down the front and back stretch. So he's really starting to feel that. He has to change his driving style a little bit because of that, to roll a little bit better through the turns, let that car in general roll more in and out of turns as well. So it is a little bit of a change that you have to do in driving style, but it still can be as fast if you're able to adjust that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, as we have less than 50 laps to go at the moment. Nussbaum still leading this one, and Broström and Blicht are closing that margin on Luke Muskie and also Nussbaum all at the very same time. So let's wait and see. As we've just seen as well, Andre Selander is into the pit lane for not the first time today, I'm afraid. Now 22 laps down. That's going to be the end of his day. Jonas Modders is also in the pit lane, so he may well be just declassified at the end, but Selander certainly has come to the end of the road here for today. Valiant effort for him, I suppose, for him to continue on in this race, but you know, when it's not your day, it's not your day, and it really hasn't been for the 140 today.
Yeah, it really hasn't been the best. I mean, it started out good for Selander, but I mean, yes, he did drop through the field ever so slightly, but it still was a good race until it wasn't anymore for him, sadly. And you know, one thing that I've realized, Broström right now actually is the fastest driver out there. He was actually also able to catch up to Cyril Nussbaum, as he has trimmed that gap down nearly to 7.5 seconds. So Broström really good driving right now for him. Maybe even Nussbaum just ever so slightly backing off and helping his tires that little bit better, but Lukomski continues to bleed time, and now he also starts to bleed time back to Broström.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great driving from Broström at the moment, and Erik Blicht is just hitching a bit of a magic carpet ride at the moment, and possibly even pushing the 71 along a little bit and helping him on his way. A little bit wide from Broström there, but it looks all part of the plan for the moment. 30.7 from Nussbaum. What's it going to be for Broström and Blicht as they come over the line? 30.8 for Broström, which is the only time that really matters because he's leading the duo, so losing a tenth on that one. I think getting to Nussbaum is going to be a little bit of a stretch here, even with the time remaining. However, getting up towards Lukomski in this one is a real possibility, because that 74 is dropping off. These two are really coming to the fore. They're going very quickly indeed. And so I really feel like there could be a battle for second coming on.
Yeah, last lap 2/10 faster than Lukomski, even a 10th faster than Nussbaum here, Broström was. So it is a good drive right now that 71 is able to produce. But the question is, how good is he with the tires? How good is he right now managing that? Because it doesn't matter if you're able to creep up a tenth or two per lap to Lukomski, if at the end of the stint where it would matter for you to be at the back of Lukomski, you're losing 3, 4, 5 tenths a lap because you're pushing so hard and overused the tires early in the stint.
And by the way as well, given where Eric Blicht is, he would continue to be second place in the championship by the looks of things, because Cyril Nussbaum, if things were to stay as they are right now, then he would be leading it by just 4 points. There's some big margins in this championship, a lot of points up for grabs on every single event here, but it often produces some very close finishes nevertheless. Even going into the final race of the season being 160 or 159 points behind, you can still clinch it if things go your way. So we'll be looking out for that one when we come to our conclusion at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That is going to be an entertaining race for sure. We're going to see this championship come to an end there, see who's crowned champion. Don't forget about that drop week though, that these guys will have, and that's going to make things a little bit more tricky, let's say, for us to work out, but we'll certainly give it a go and try and do the best that we can with that one, because it can get confusing on occasion. And just to remind you as well, is things are a little bit single file in the race right now, entering the final quarter. A couple of weeks' time, then we've got the Phoenix race of our championship, a very different one to Nashville and indeed Michigan. The only real short track on the calendar, if you really call Phoenix a short track, and if you discount Richmond as a short track, which I know some people do. It's a bit, the jury's out on that one a little bit, but anyway, those two fairly similar. Phoenix is coming up next. Richmond will be the penultimate one after Talladega and before Charlotte to round off the calendar. So we've got a good mix of tracks here, to be fair, all different kinds. If you want to include Phoenix and Richmond as short tracks, then go for it. And Charlotte as a mile and a half. We've got Super Speedway as well with Talladega, a very odd one in Pocono. We've got a great mix here, Stefan. The only thing we're missing is a road course, but I'm not too displeased about that at all. I think it's a good mix of circuits, good mix of ovals.
Yeah, most definitely. The drivers will be put on many different challenging ovals nonetheless. And by the way, Phoenix will be with the open dog leg as well. So that should be very interesting. Obviously, that will also mean that a lot of converging lines will be happening into turn number 3, and how that's going to play out will also be very interesting in a few weeks' time. But right now, we're still in Nashville rather, on the Fairgrounds Speedway, and Lukomski continues to lose time, and he's really starting to bleed time right now, as Broström continues to be 1/10 to 3/4 even faster than Lukomski. So now that Lukomski lost a Nussbaum right ahead of him, he really seems to struggle with consistency.
Yeah, and even 1/10 in this one, if you think about that and you're thinking at home, well, that's not very much really, getting in 1/10 for that. Oh goodness me, there's a close-up of the grille for the Chevrolet, but Blick just backs off through the corner and gives Broström a little bit of space. But yeah, if you're thinking that it's not very 1/10 a lap, it's not very impressive, not very much of a time game. It really is, especially at an oval like this. You think about 30-second lap times here today, gaining every 30 seconds, gaining 1/10 of a second, and over a normal circuit length of 2 minutes, let's say, that would be nearly half a second that these guys are gaining. So if you put it into perspective like that, then you really start to understand how quickly Broström and Blicht are going right now, and there can be no doubt about the fact that they are going quickly. It's just about whether they're quick enough. I think they might just about make it there, but 36 to go. They're not going to get to the lead, I wouldn't imagine, without caution, but Lukomski's definitely going to be looking in his mirrors here, and they could be banging on the door a little bit later on. As we get towards the final 10 laps, it could really be on for second.
Yeah, 36 times 0.1, that is obviously 3.6 seconds. So right now, they are going to catch him with about 5-6 laps to go. So that is still something that could happen. But it is starting to be more and more unlikely the more laps they are closing in onto the last lap. By the way, for some drivers, depending on how hard they're pushing right now, it could also be a case of they are not able to make it on fuel to the end. So a little bit of questioning out there as well, as the 79 is stopped.
Kevin Adam, that is, and he's back to the pit lane. I'm afraid not entirely sure how he's ended up there, but the man who was third place last time out is not going to be anywhere like that now, because he has retired, well, possibly retired from this one. Also retirement, Yanis Modos as well, is not going to be making it to the end of this one. By the looks of the car on the 79 there, I don't think that one's going to be returning to the race either, although there may be a chance for it to do so.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see that 79 drive out again. Maybe he'll try if he can fix it in a 16 within the 16 laps and try to be up to speed. But I don't think we're gonna see that 79 be up to speed anymore. And I think he is going to be our third retire. Technically, obviously, he could still be able to make it within the 16 laps time. Even Janus Motors could be doing that, even though he is right now 24 laps down. But it is highly unlikely, and thus I think we're not going to see that 55 and 79 back on track.
No, I don't believe so. And what this has allowed is Antti Terho and Norbert Leitner, who I'm surprised is a lap down, but they're nose to tail right now, and they're fighting over the first car a lap down. And you might be wondering why that's so important, because they're a mile back at this point. However, you know, you can get the lucky dog with a caution, you can get back onto the lead lap, and then who knows what can happen from there on a late race restart. So, you know, it can all change very quickly. Gap for the lead is now 4.5 seconds as we go back to a little bit more of a populated field here. It's Paul Mazur who's maybe regretting some of his choices now, with Roos, Toika and Solo not quite in close attendance. That's Gabriel Storr, I think, trying to hit to ride on the back of these guys at the moment. But yeah, the 31 starting to slip and slide and fall backwards, continuing to do so really, and looking like maybe 9th place is going to be his very shortly.
Yeah, Massier, he's really starting to struggle. That early pit stop for him really didn't work out very nicely. Yes, he had the better tires over the other guys that were still driving out, but as you can see, it's just not worth it to do that undercut here, especially because he is now starting to really struggle with those worn tires against the much fresher tires still in behind. You can see him slide up the track. That gives the opening to Andrew Roos, who will now try to go for 7th place and doesn't even need to go through turn 1 side by side. That's how much more grip these guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mazir is kind of resigned to his fate at the moment, and if he battles this too hard, then he might allow Solo and Oivinen and Gunnarsson and also Erling all involved here, and he doesn't really want that at this stage. He's trying to pick up as many points as possible, and fighting over you know, four or five points here right now is going to cost him maybe 20 a little bit later on if he lets this go too much. But he slots in here at the moment. Timo Toika has not followed Andrew Roos through, which I was expecting. I have to say I was expecting one to go through and then in short order the other, but it doesn't look like it's quite happened like that. Toika just biding his time and heading to the inside line now. Mazir wants the outside, and we keep talking about the run that you can get on that line, but it only really works if you've got the tyres to get the exit off of 4, and clearly the 31 has not.
Yeah, the 31 is in trouble, and he is continuing to bleed positions here. So most definitely we can see that 31 with the early stop just not working out whatsoever. Can't even go down to the low line, as you were able to see into turn 1 on the back end of your screen. And at 16 now gonna also make that move count, and he is still 1 lap down, but that doesn't matter at all. Back to the front though, fighting for 3rd place, Broström versus Blinks. Blinks still continues to be in behind, and he knows exactly why, because there could be something greater on the line. The gap has gone down to 2.7 seconds between Lukomski and Broström, and they're continuing to be much faster. However, they're starting to run out of laps.
They are indeed. 25 to go as we cross the line this time, I believe. Nussbaum goes over the line right now. There's a bit of a name mash there. Broström is the one in 3rd place right now, leading the pack with Blicht here. And Kevin Adam, by the way, I believe is going to be proving. Oh, sorry, no, he's exited his car. I thought our graphics, I thought it told us that he's out of the pit lane, but he's not. He's out of that car actually. Definite retirement. Turns out we were correct in the end, and so he is going to be 17th and staying there throughout the rest of this one. So Eric Blicht is following on behind. This gap's hovering at 3 seconds, and to be honest, the trend is not really going downwards. There's a couple of laps here and there where Lukomski's losing some time. However, I don't think this is coming down quite quickly enough. And maybe Eric Blicht is going to be thinking the same thing, but thing I'm wondering about is, when is the 95 here going to get a bit impatient? When is he going to resign himself to the fact that they're not actually going to get second here? He'd better just start attacking Brostam and trying to get third here. At what point is he going to reach that?
I think he's going to wait for the last 5 laps, because you never know, there still could be that gap shrinking, and right now Brostrom is doing a very good job. He is either holding the gap to Lukomsky or he is closing it in, so the gap is continuing to shrink, but yeah, it is most definitely starting to really slow down for that shrinking, and I don't think that the 95 would even have their tires anymore to also try to attack Lukomsky. And so right now it's just a game of waiting and seeing where your opponent is having weaknesses right now in his car. Where is he weak? Where is he strong? Can I attack him out of turn 4, or do I have to do it into turns 1 or 3? It all plays out right now.
It will indeed. Let's see. As Eric Blicht is still hovering at the moment, just pushing along almost. Brostrom, excuse me, towards second place, quite possibly the gap below 4 seconds for the lead for the first time in a while as well. A couple of poor laps actually. It's just a small mistakes really from Nussbaum. It was a 31-2 last time around, so loses another couple of attempts, but with 3.5 seconds and 20 laps to go, I don't think he's going to be too worried about that one. I think one of the battles that may well just re-emerge towards the end as well has got to be this one between Andrew Roos and Timo Teucher, two guys who have been fighting their way through the field throughout the day, and that was a bit of a hands-full moment for the 46 of Timo Teucher as well, but for the moment they've got a couple of car lengths between them and don't look like fighting too much at the moment. So yeah, Teucher really been in the wars today, if you remember back to the contact with Tony Oivinen. Interestingly, he's managed to leave the 84 behind. The first shot we saw of them, they were running back together again, almost helping each other back towards the front here, Stefan, but he's completely left the 84 behind now, and he's clearly better off without him, to be honest. He's made great progress inside the top 10 again.
Yeah, the 46 most definitely didn't have as much damage as the 84 seems to have. Obviously, Oivinen not able to pretty much take any repairs of that damage because, well, quite frankly, we didn't have a caution anymore. So that probably is the real reason why Teucher is right now so much faster than Oivinen. I mean, it is only 7 seconds actually between Teucher and Oivinen, but 46 most definitely much higher up the ranks than the 84.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a strange one, especially because Tony Oivinen was so good early on in this race at getting up towards the front again. He was really, really strong getting through. Oh, and the barriers in the background, just hitting the wall in the background there. I think that might have been Mazur, possibly. Or the car that he was trying to get through, Stur, excuse me. Yeah, the white and green car there, just battling with a lap car, getting into the wall, and thankfully kept it on the straight and narrow, so everybody could keep racing and stay green. But that was a scary moment, and Mazur would have had his heart in his mouth, certainly. Yeah,
most definitely that could have been very bad for the 31 if Stur would have bounced back awkwardly from the safer barrier, but no real harm was done. Mazur was anyway dropping away from the two guys in front, so I mean, I don't think even he lost that much time from it anyway, so could have been much worse. However, Cyril Nussbaum, he's continuing to lead away, nearly 4 seconds now the gap is. He's most definitely selected cruise control, feet up in the air, just wheeling that car to the finish.
Yeah, absolutely, he's just got to nurse that one home now. 15 to go at the line for him, and just praying that nobody spins around and brings out the caution, because that really would throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Not in terms of a tyre set issue that I was actually quite expecting before the start of the day, but we've had a lot of green flag running. There's not been too many cautions to pull too many guys onto pit lane. I've got to admit, I thought it was a bit of a mistake when everybody came down pit lane so early on. You know, it was a lap 25 and already throwing away one of the tyre sets after only using them for 25 laps in this kind of distance. I've got to admit, I thought it was a big mistake from everybody, to be honest, but clearly it was definitely the right call, without a doubt, in hindsight, and the fact that we've run so clean and green from that point onwards has got to have helped. But yeah, these guys definitely know what they're doing, and pretty much everybody went for a near perfect strategy in that respect. Stur was the only one who did something a little bit different, and I do, especially from a spectator's point of view, absolutely appreciate that. However, it's not yielded him a result today. Maybe next time the alternate strategy will do him some good, but not this occasion.
Yeah, we can most definitely say in hindsight that it didn't work out for him in that strategy. But, you know, it opens up more possibilities later down the road, because you are now smarter just because of knowing that that wasn't the right call.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to use that in the coming races to propel himself a little bit further towards the front, and use that to make a couple of better choices in the next races, especially considering he was making a few good ones at Michigan, finishing 5th was Stuart. So yeah, let's see how he does for the rest of the season. 13 laps to go right now. It's going to be 12 actually when we see these guys come over the line right now. And here are the two, Broström and Blicht, 3rd and 4th at the moment. Blicht looks a little bit agitated on the back of that car at the moment, I've got to be honest, and this gap's not coming down quickly enough for me. It's over 2 seconds still, just over 10 laps to go. Yeah, that's not quite quickly enough, I wouldn't have said. And we're going to see a good fight between the two, I would imagine, but it's not going to be for second, I'm afraid.
Yeah, at this point, Broström has to drive about 3/4 faster per lap to really have a good chance to try to overtake Lukomski. But Lukomski still drives 31.2s, where Linus Broström only 31.1s to 31.2. So really not going to happen here for Broström in that 71. So it's all about looking back behind Eric Blixt for that 3rd place. Who is going to get that last place podium? Even though we're on ovals, it doesn't really count. Second is the first loser here in Freedom Land, but for us Europeans, it's still.
Yeah, I'm talking about this 3rd place a little bit in kind of European road racing perspective, aren't I? Really, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. A top 3 anyway would be certainly a good thing, and points is very, very important. The points are very important. Broström 9th place in the last race, so he's a good few adrift of Blicht at this point, just under 50 behind. So he would like to at least claw a few back, and he would be getting 7 back here today if he was to be able to hold him off at this point. But as I mentioned, Blicht has got a championship lead on the line right now. At the moment, I think he's 4 points behind Cyril Nussbaum as we run on the road. If he was to be able to overtake it, Broström and gain those 7 points, he would be 3 points our championship leader. So this is a very important battle in that respect. But it just depends how valued he really puts a kind of psychological win like that. Leading the championship is a psychological hit to everybody else, but how highly is Eric Blicht going to value that, and how hard are these two going to fight each other for that top 3 place?
Yeah, and since we actually do not have that many rounds, it is only 8 rounds in total. We kind of have to say championship implications here with that battle, because Eric Blixt could obviously take over the championship lead if he's able to finish in 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot on the line here, and don't forget the drop week is going to make things a little bit more complicated, but at this end of the season it's not worth worrying about just yet. Neither is the championship really, but I do like to keep an eye on it, just to see what's going on there. Looks like Andrew Roos was having a couple of issues then, possibly internet related, but you'll be glad to know that the 7 is still in 7th. And still running well. That's another battle that could explode in these final 6 laps as we're coming up towards the line right now. They're getting tantalisingly close to the 74, but they're not going to make it there. Lukomski's going to hold on, but what about this battle for 3rd? It's going to kick off here shortly. Blicht, I feel like Blicht is starting to kind of seek out where he can maybe go for this. You can just see him moving around just a little bit and kind of just looking at the lay of the land here, deciding where maybe Broström is a little bit weaker than him and choosing his right moment to attack, because he has got to do it fairly soon. Yeah,
as said earlier, I think starting next lap, this is really where we're going to see Blixt try to attack that 71, because he knows this could be the championship lead here already right now. So let's see what Eric has on the back end.
It's a decent run through here at the moment, but what's the exit like going to be for Broström? Using a little bit more of the road as well here. Blichton, we're going to get a very in-depth view of the Chevrolet in front, I think, here from the rear bumper there. Oh, well, we're on the front bumper looking at the rear bumper. Just see a bit of traffic up there for Lukomski's going to really halt him just a little bit, but as you can see on the left hand side of your screen, the mover and shaker front today, obviously Salander a big loser because of the incident that he had off of turn 4, bringing out our one and only caution of the day. But you've got to take your hat off to Linus Broström for gaining 13 positions. It may end up being 12 depending on how this battle ends out, but either of them, fantastic drive from him.
Yeah, most definitely. Broström from 16th up to 3rd place. Most definitely no small feat in a field like we have out here today. Extremely fast, extremely well, and good racing as well.
Free to go as things stand, and just 90 seconds for Eric Blick to make a move here. Is he going to leave it all to the final lap? Does he believe that being behind going on to that final lap is the best strategy here? Because he's sticking behind for an awful long time. I would have expected him to at least have an attempt by now, Stefan, but he's really not even had a dive down the inside or anything. That we've not seen side by side between the two of them at all yet.
Yeah, Broström is doing a really good job. He is fast where exactly he needs to be fast. He's taking all the right lines right now, and obviously with how worn out these tires right now are, it also is a little bit difficult to get those runs you need, and especially to have those dives that you need to take away that 3rd place from Broström, as they now going to enter the last lap of this race.
They are indeed. The white flag is in the air for Cyril Nussbaum, who's been leading this one for a very, very long time indeed. Who's pretty much led the last 130 laps of this one. And now, for the last 80 about, he's been clear of the field by quite a long way. Lukomski challenged him for a fair amount of time, but it's been complete domination from the number 99 car here. Possibly taking the championship lead, but definitely taking the victory here at Nashville SuperSpeedway. Cyril Nussbaum knocking out this performance. Absolutely fantastic from him. It's going to be 2nd place for Lukomski. Eric Blicht with barely an attempt going on here at the end on Linus Broström for 3rd. Not able to get through, and so Cyril Nussbaum is not only confirmed as your race winner, but also your new championship leader by 4 points. A very deserved championship lead as well, Stefan, considering the performance he's put on today.
Yeah, the French driver with a great performance, great drive, didn't put a foot wrong, so very well deserved win and championship lead after 2 races. The 99 surely very delighted about that one, and I'm pretty sure those donuts will taste very nice.
They will indeed, as he waits to get them underway, gets up the banking, and just does a small 180. I hope he's got some fuel left to do, and I'm sure he will do, as he does a burnout for the iRacing crowd on the right hand side. There it is, coming towards the start finish line, and today it's going to be for him a fantastic race and a really good performance from Nussbaum. Not challenged in a way that I've not seen in a NASCAR race for a very long time. I've got to be honest, these races always come down to the final few laps, and pack racing, obviously, as we saw earlier on, is always very, very prominent in these, but it's been a very long time since I've seen a race won like that from Cyril Nussbaum. He took it by nearly 5 seconds in front of Dominik Lukomski. Linus Broström held on for the top 3 ahead of Eric Blicht, who's now still 2nd place in the championship, but just that little bit closer. Alexander Arduson is in 5th, or finished in 5th. Pole sitter Hagman disappointed possibly with 6th. Timo Teucher recovered well to 7th, pipping Andrew Roos in the final laps to that position. Paul Mazier with that bold strategy call comes home 9th ahead of Daniel Solo in 10th position by the end of this one, and indeed the first Ford that we've seen on the grid after these 160 laps. Then in 11th position it was Jonas Gunnarsson ahead of Robert Erling. Tony Uvenen was in 13th position ahead of Antti Terho. Norbert Leitner in 15th in the end. Gabriel Storr was the final man to cross the line, 1 lap down, and in 16th position, and there are your retirees as well. Kevin Adam, Jonas Modos, and Andre Selander all not making it to the flag in this one. I'm afraid the Fords not having a particularly good day on that one. Let's take in some driver interviews, and we're going to start with the man who came in third position after the end of that one, Linus Broström, holding off Eric Blix towards the end. Linus, welcome on to the booth. It's good to have you along. Took us through those last couple of laps and, well, basically the last stint really. You were trying to chase down the second place. You couldn't quite get there, but you held on for third. What was it like?
Well, when we came out of the pits, we had a gap of maybe 6 seconds up to second place, and I had Eric behind me, and he basically just pushed me along the whole way, which is what we needed to do. And we closed that gap down to just under 2 seconds. So the gap before the pit stop was 4, so we gained in way more than what we lost on the pit stop, but unfortunately the gap before the pit stop was too big. But then towards the end, when we realized we weren't going to get there, it was just a matter of trying to back up my corners to see where he wanted to back off and which lines he wanted to take, and try and kind of force him to check up a bit more than he wanted to, and try and give him as much dirty air as possible to wear his tires out. And then towards the end, I was just waiting every time he had a run to make it dive up the inside, but he never did, and I got the inside for the final corner, and thankfully I was able to hold him off and score a third. So really happy about the race today. I was messed up qualifying big time, so I think I started like 16th or something, so to finish third is a great achievement.
Were you maybe surprised that Eric Blick didn't attack you a little bit earlier on in that race? Because it was quite clear to me, at least watching on, that you weren't going to get to second place, so I was surprised Blitz didn't make more of a move. Were you surprised sitting there as a driver?
For the first half after the pit stop, not really. We were still kind of catching. It was still a massive gap to close in, but one little mistake from him, and you obviously want to be as close as possible. But coming into the final, say 10-15 laps, I was expecting him to make a move every time he came close to me, but he never did. And I guess he was still just hoping that we would close up to the leaders, or to second place enough to catch him. And towards the end, we gained quite a lot in the last 5 laps, but so maybe that's why he didn't make a move. He's just hoping for second place to mess up. But I'm just happy he didn't, because my Force Esports Chevy Camaro was great all day, had great speed. So as long as if he would have taken the inside, I think it would have gone interesting. But thankfully he put it on the outside in the final corner, so it worked out. But I'm just happy we could have a great race between the two of us.
It was a fantastic race indeed. Just rewinding a little bit to the opening part of the race, you were actually the biggest mover forward in this one. By the end of it, 13 places from your starting position, which was quite lowly, especially compared to where you finished. But what were those opening laps like when you were right in the pack and there was some really intense pack racing going on?
Yeah, the first few laps were a lot of like 2 and 3 wide racing, which is what you get with this car around here. But it was great fun, and then when we started to spread out a little bit, we kind of tried to single file out, me and my Force Esports teammate, to get back up to the leaders. But there was one car that kept going on the inside, side drafting everybody, slowing us down, causing us to lose the leaders. So that was a bit frustrating. But then after the first caution, I think I kind of got ahead of that, and we were able to keep up with the leaders somewhat. And then it happened again. Somebody side drafted for a few too many laps, and the leaders were just gone. And then through the pit stop, I wanted to pit as late as possible, which I did. I was able to get 5 bonus points for the lap led as well, which is the main goal before I pitted. So after that, I just pitted, gave the lead to my teammate who got 5 bonus points, and then he pitted, and then all we could do was just go as fast as possible. But the first part of the race was great, all the 2, 3, almost 4 wide racing. I love doing that.
It was very fun to watch as well, and I'm glad you enjoyed being a part of it. Well, we'll let you go now and enjoy that third place that you've thoroughly well earned here today. Linus, congratulations on your drive today, and thanks for coming to talk to us as well after the race.
Thank you so much.
There we are, Linus Broström of that 71 car coming to talk to us after the race, and seems very pleased with his afternoon, which is very, very pleasing indeed. So yeah, we'll see how he does in the next few races. Obviously Phoenix coming up, Las Vegas after that, Pocono, Talladega, Richmond and Charlotte to round off your championship. We'll just wait a couple of minutes here before any of the other top three will come and join us. So hopefully we'll get to speak to Nussbaum and Lukomski at some point before we hand you back to the team for the post-race show. But Stefan, a word on Linus Brodstrom, since he came to talk to us for an interview, and we thank him for that, of course. But what a great drive from him here today. I mean, absolutely fantastic from him. You've got to take your hat off, really. 13 places upwards.
Yeah, you were really able to hear how he was very delighted about his performance here today. Nashville SuperSpeedway, one of its kind, pretty much 1/3 mile of a track, fully concrete as well. I mean, you can see why this is a concrete track, knowing that the Bristol Motor Speedway Company is also owning the Nashville SuperSpeedway. So it is most definitely a much different challenge than pretty much all other tracks, even compared to Bristol. So yeah, it is just that, and it leaves up for much more to hope in general, also from the whole field, because the racing was really good. We only saw one minor crash basically that led to a caution, so really looking out for that next race.
We saw as well that it was very impressive. We could have really seen quite a lot of cautions in this race, but you remember Tony Uvenen's big spin onto the grass. Well, not a spin onto the grass, but he got onto the grass and somehow held on. So I think it's a testament to the drivers, as much as we can talk about the circuit, obviously, but I think it's a testament to the drivers, really, that there was only one caution here today, because there were plenty of opportunities for there to be more.
Most definitely, yeah. We've had a few spins. I mean, just 10 laps before that we saw, or 15 laps before that, something like that, we saw that touch and spin to the infield of two cars that also didn't produce a caution. So it is really interesting that we didn't see more. We had a couple of bump and runs as well, side swipes as well. So these guys were at times a little bit lucky that a caution didn't proceed.
Yeah, absolutely, especially considering some fairly large crashes at Michigan. We were able to avoid them for the most part for this Nashville race, and unfortunately Andre Salander was a victim to a pretty big crash in that one, and it eventually ended his day in 19th position. Very disappointing. But speaking of the championship, as I mentioned, I believe, using my very average maths, that Cyril Nussbaum is going to be leading this championship by just 4 points ahead of Eric Blix, but still a very, very long way to go in this one. Some of the others who were right up towards the front didn't have a very good day today. Obviously, Ocean Walsh was not here. Kevin Adam retired. Norbert Leitner finished a lap down, as did Gabriel Storr. Daniel Solo was low part of the top 10. Linus Brodstrom, 9th, put on a good performance, and so did Lukomski. So, you know, only 3 or 4 of the top 10 there, Stefan, really put in a good performance today, which is going to really turn this championship on its head already, I guess.
Yeah, it really is going to be interesting how all of that proceeds. We have seen great performances, we haven't seen good performances, we have also seen bad performances. So, as said, Nashville is just that one track that is so different from every other track that we have on the calendar. So you really can't go too much into detail and try to pick something out of this track that will also translate to others. But still is one race that could decide the championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and we are looking forward to the races coming up in the near future. Phoenix is next. Make sure you join us for that here on Racebot TV. We'll be live with the entirety of that one, of course, so we look forward to your company then. Thanks very much to everybody who's been watching on here tonight, but it's been Cyril Nussbaum's absolute domination here today at Nashville SuperSpeedway. He takes the victory in a dominant display. We'll see you next time.